This is Stone Soup, a podcast by the charity Age UK Camden. They have been supporting older people in Camden for over half a century to stay active, connected, independent and empowered in later life. For more information, visit ageukcamden.org.uk.
Start?
Yeah.
My name is Constantine Louis, but people call me Costas for short. By the way, Costas, they borrow my name, but they don't even give me a free coffee at Costa Cafe. At the end, I remember coming to Camden as a very young man. But before that, my story goes when my parents emigrated to Africa. I was born in Alexandria. I went to a Greek school there. And then I came to England to finish my studies as a wireless operator. Unfortunately, they invented teleprinting, which meant I could not become a wireless operator. And the first thing I did was go to the nearest pub and get drunk. What I remember was I was sitting on one of those mushroom chairs by the bar, and I kept looking at this number plate above the bar. And it was very strange because it had the letter R, the letter U, the number 18, and a question mark. And I kept looking at it, and then it clicked. It said, "Are you 18?" And I wasn't. In those days, beer was very cheap. I think a pint of brown ale or light ale, they don't have them anymore, or pale ale, was only 11 pence. And 12 pence to the shilling, 20 shillings to the pound. So it was very cheap, really. You could get drunk on 50p, 10 shillings. Anyway, so that was my beginning. Then I moved to South London. I lived there for a few years. And when I came to Camden, I lived in Cleveland Street. And Cleveland Street apparently is the division between Westminster and Camden. And I got a job opposite. So I lived in Camden and I worked in Westminster. People used to come from faraway places like Watford, Kingston, and they were on time. I was always late. And my boss said, "Hey, hold on a minute, you live across the road. Why are you late?" I said, "Traffic." "What do you mean traffic?" I said, "I waited half an hour for the traffic to stop so I could cross the street." Yeah, he said, "Okay." Anyway, so my first address was in Cleveland Street. I moved to Tavistock Place, and now I live in WC1 off Tavistock Place. So, and I used to know a lady who unfortunately is not with us anymore, who actually remembers living in the area and seeing the bomb that destroyed St. Peter's Church. And a lot of people apparently died on that day. In that spot now there is a block of flats called St. Peter's Court. At the moment, I visit people with dementia. I did a lot of training on dementia and aphasia. Only a week ago, or 2 weeks ago rather, I spent a lot of time with a lady who reached 100. Her name is Eileen. And we had a very good party. And after the party at the day center, do you know Great Croft? Yeah, I went there, we had a party there, and the following day, we met in a pub. And this lady not only has all her scruples, she sings perfectly, even better than a young person. And we sang in the pub, and when we came to the song, "When you walk through a storm, the whole pub erupted. Everybody was singing at the same time. It was like we were football hooligans, and it was really nice. This lady is one of the people I visit. With Age UK, I visit another lady who lives very nearby, and she is 97. She used to be a very clever lady. She used to work for the Inland Revenue in Tavis House. You remember Tavis House when we were there?
Yeah.
Before that, it was Inland Revenue, before Age UK took over. And she was there for many years. I remember talking to her one day, and I said, Elizabeth, you used to be a very good accountant. You must have been very good at mathematics. And she turned around and she said to me, I was good at everything. And then with a smile she said, and very modest too. Yeah, funny lady. It's funny, but I learn a lot from people who I visit. For example, I did not know that Gracie Fields, a singer, wartime singer, First World War, used to be called Gracie Stanfield. And this lady told me that when she was young, she was a fan of Gracie Fields, and she went all the way to Capri, where she had a house, a villa in Capri, and she wanted to take a picture of her. And Gracie called her over, says, come over, and she gave the camera to one of the staff there, said, take a picture of both of us. And she has that picture in an album. And she also told me that she met a singer called Frankie Vaughan. And she said Frankie Vaughan was looking, when he was young, he was looking for a stage name. So his grandmother, who was from Germany, said to him, Frankie, one day you'll be the Vaughan. And he liked Vaughan, and he called himself Frankie Vaughan. She meant one. And apparently, Frankie Vaughan's name was Frankie Abelson. So you get a lot of information from people in their 90s. It's amazing how many things they remember. The other thing I like about volunteering is it's like visiting my own mum, you know. They're so, they have a smile on their face, me too, and I feel happy about it. What I do these days is I take some songs with me and we sing together. Have you ever been to Songhaven? Songhaven is a concert, and it's meant to be for people with dementia, but everybody can go. It's a lovely concert. Professional singers like baritones, mezzo-sopranos, pianists, and they do this, and people can go. It's free, it's very inclusive. In many ways, I would say it's the best concert I've ever been, and it's every month. And it usually takes place in churches, like St. Paul's in Knightsbridge, Holy Cross in near King's Cross, or the Musicians' Church in High Holborn. And it's very inclusive. Nobody shushes anybody. You can get up and dance. You can sing along. And in fact, you are encouraged to sing along. And I used to take people with me to the concert. Unfortunately, over the years and since the pandemic, a lot of people are bedbound and cannot go. And that is very sad. So what I do is I record it, and I play to them, and we sing together. This is one way of doing it, because at the end of the day, music is something that helps people with dementia. It brings back memories. And this is the story I was going to come to. Many years ago, about 35 years ago, I volunteered for a day center somewhere in Finsbury Park, and my job then was to run a reminiscence class. They gave me a briefcase full of photographs, discs, and other memorabilia, and I would showed the people there, and they would say, for example, oh, this is Rita Hayworth, or this is, for example, Louise Brooks. They remember the black and white silent films and everything. One day, I took a picture out. I looked at the back what the name was. I never knew who that lady was, and I don't think anybody knew. There was a lady who was in a wheelchair who never spoke, and people thought she can't speak, but she would just nod her head if they asked her something. And on that particular day, she looked at the picture from afar, and she said, I know that lady. We used to sing together in Blackpool in the old days. We were professional. We used to go to clubs and sing together. And she sang the song from beginning to end with a beautiful voice. And that really was something, because up to that day, even the manager of the day center didn't know that she could speak. Now, in Camden, when I first remember Camden, I remember going to King's Cross, and not many people remember this. There was a telegraph office outside the station. You would go there with your telegram, and they would look at it and count the words, and that was there. And whenever I talk about it, nobody remembers it. But I was interested in that because I wanted to become a wireless operator. So, and the other thing I remember very, very vividly is in Pentonville Road, there used to be a jeweler shop called Bravington's. And what got me is on the pavement, the name Bravington was with brass tags all over, shiny. And I looked at it and I thought, that's very quaint, very British, you know? And that's not there anymore. So I do remember bits and pieces. For example, I lived in Covent Garden for a while, and it was nice, Betterton Street. And I remember in Betterton Street where I lived, there was a lady who remembered then how Covent Garden changed from being a market. And I remember it myself, because in the early 60s, late 50s, early 60s, the market was open and they were working in the night, preparing the fruit, the vegetables, especially the flowers. And I remember the pubs were open at 2 o'clock in the morning because of the market. And I wanted to go to the pub in those days. I became a little bit of an alcoholic, I think. I liked my drink. I had some friend there who gave me a white overall. And I pretended to be working in the market. And I would go in the pub and nobody would question me. And I would drink. And what I remember vividly is at about 10:30, people from the theater, actors, with their full regalia, you know, like Henry VIII or whatever, Queen Elizabeth I, they would come in the pub for a pint. And it was so funny because we would joke, you know, hello, Your Honor, things like that. And of course, I don't think there are many people who remember this. And it was so funny because you don't expect to see somebody in the pub looking like Henry VIII. And I also remember that I used to get very, very reasonable prices for my fruit, for my whatever I wanted to buy, because people thought I worked there, and they would give me a very good price, like business prices. The strange thing is that when my parents emigrated to North Africa, they emigrated for the reason of business. So my dad developed 3 different businesses. One was export-import, another was wine bottling, and another was a very big area built on the sea mostly. And it was more or less a family place. It was not just a restaurant, it was like a club. And this is during the war. The British had, in those days, were more or less in Egypt, everywhere. And there was a great big British base in an area called Mex, outside Alexandria, where one of my dad's businesses were. My mom was expecting me, and she was taken to the British military hospital. So when I wanted to travel, and I was looking for papers my mom told me, go to the British consulate in Alexandria, because apparently that's where your papers are. And I went and I said, look, I want a passport. They said, yeah, name, yeah. 2 photographs, 1 signed, and get your passport. And that's how I traveled. That's why I chose to come to England, actually, to become a wireless operator, because my idea was, once I become a wireless operator, I can join the merchant navy and travel the world. Well, I managed that. I traveled the world, but not as a wireless operator. Why I wanted to become a wireless operator was this. A wireless operator on a ship, on a liner, is the first person that comes out when the ship is in port, because he's not needed. There is telephony straight away. And he's the last officer to go back before the ship sets sail. So that was very interesting. I had more time to explore the places that the ship visits. I think what I did afterwards was I went to an academy and then a university. I became a teacher. I went to Greece for many years. I was a teacher there. Then I went into the travel business, and I traveled all over Eastern Europe when it was still USSR. I learned Polish because I used to travel to Poland quite a lot. What I remember as a boy was I went to a Greek school, but because in those days the lingua franca was French, we had to learn French. The language of commerce was English, so we learned English. And we lived in Alexandria, so I had to learn Arabic. So I was doing 4 languages at the age of 5.5. And I went home crying. I said, Mom, I'm not going back to this school. They don't do Greek anymore. They do all these languages. But I'm glad I did, because even to this day, I speak several languages. I speak Italian, I speak French. I mean, it is very easy for me to travel the world. I find a language that I can communicate in. I did a lot of jobs. So in my lifetime, I've been in the fashion business. I worked in the travel industry. My very last job was mentoring students with disabilities at Middlesex University. It was a very good job because it paid well, but above all, I was there to make sure that children with disabilities, especially students with Asperger's, bipolar, they were not only able to continue their education, but also to graduate. And graduation day for me was the best time of my life, because a lot of students from day one would come to me and say, look, it's my parents who want me to come to university. I don't really want to be at university. And I would say, come on, look, we work together, we find a way. Ask me another question.
I guess like everything you're kind of explaining to me just of kind of deep care for other people, and I'm kind of wondering where that comes from.
I think it is the fact that when the war started in Alexandria, my dad lost all his businesses because the export-import had to close down. The whole of Europe was under German occupation, so that export was finished. The other business, wines coming from Crete, that had to be closed down. Crete was under occupation. And the third was because we were very near the British base, we were bombed. Well, there was shrapnel all over. I've actually got a shrapnel here when I was a baby in my pram, and my mom picked it up, otherwise it would have gone into my eye. It was burning. So I still got the mark. And my dad died of a heart attack at that time. So we were ruined financially, and we lost our dad at the same time. And because of this, my mom brought me up. My mom was rich once, very rich, but then because we lost everything, she had to go out and work, and she used to take me with her. And since seeing my mom being so caring and looking after me, I became the same. My mom used to take me, for example, to various places where she used to volunteer to help homeless people, and I learned all this. And I have been volunteering ever since I remember. And I have been actually, I'm a people's person. I like to help where I can. I don't have any money because I happen to have 2 children with disabilities. And whenever I have money, I take them on holidays. Therefore, I don't have even a bicycle to my name. I live in a 1-bedroom council flat with my wife, and I don't own anything. There's nothing in my name. And I'm happy because my mom told me not to worry about money, because if my dad didn't worry about losing his fortune, he would be alive now. She said, so since I don't respect money like other people do, I just have it as a means of helping my kids to have a holiday or going to a restaurant. So, and I'm happy about that. I don't care if I never become rich. But I think it's my mom who brought me up to be like this. You know, when I remember things like this, Callum, I know that there is need for somebody to be caring, to have empathy, and to have listening skills. And that's what I think my mom taught me, to be like that. Therefore, for me, doing voluntary work is something that pleases me. It's not voluntary, it's more or less something that I desire. I mean, sometimes I speak to Tracy and I say, every time I leave Elizabeth, I have a smile on my face. You know, we sing songs, we're happy. And I keep saying to people my age when I go to OPAG meetings, why don't you volunteer 1 or 2 hours a week? What is it? And and I'm surprised that people, okay, in England, I take my hat off, a lot of people volunteer. We need more, because people need this human interaction. It's so important. It makes people's life easier. When I go, for example, to visit a person in an old people's home, my main thing is to make them happy. And to this day, I like people to to live their lives, to go to the theater, to enjoy themselves. I don't like people just worrying about tomorrow. And my mom had this idea. If you save for a rainy day, you can bet your bottom dollar that a rainy day will come. If you don't save for a rainy day, it will never come. What? If it's a rainy day, it's a rainy day. We get wet. Yeah. What else do you want to say?
The story that I then went on to tell was the story of Stone Soup. And Stone Soup is all about everybody putting in a little. And together we have a feast. That's the heart of it all. About living a good life. That if we all share what we have, the outcome is a feast for us all.